All right, folks, while you're looking at the document, if you don't mind, I'll give you a brief summary of some of the highlights. As you can see, it's a 4-year deal. Originally, the parties were anticipating a 3-year deal, but by way of negotiations, we pushed it out another year, which is good because if it was a 3-year deal, we'd be renegotiating with this unit in about 4 months. So we'd be starting the process again. If it was ratified tonight, we'd be starting the process in 4 months. So now we have about a year and a half before the process starts again. So that's certainly a good thing. If you look as far as the percentages for salary increases, you'll see there's a 0% salary increase for 13-14 and a 0% salary increase for 14-15. Without getting too specific, that's an excellent gain, if you will, for the Board of Education to recognize the 0%. And it's also a very large concession on the part of the BTASA not to try to fight for retroactive payment. So both parties work cooperatively to come up with that. So that is certainly a favorable position for the board and also a concession by the association. There's removal of tuition reimbursement language in the contract. What the parties recognized by doing a little research is that there was a certain amount of money that was set aside every year, budgeted for administrators and supervisors to get additional educational credits. And what we noticed is that most of those folks in that unit had already advanced degrees and were not utilizing the amounts of money that were set aside. However, we recognize that if the board were to increase the payment towards those individuals' annual dues towards their membership, that would offset some of the money that was budgeted, which really, quite honestly, was in some instances being used, and others it wasn't. So that was a benefit, quite honestly, to the accounting system as far as Mr. Edwards was concerned. It cleaned up some language in the contract, and also it allowed an increase in the dues which were paid, or which the board was paying for those members. Whereas when I've negotiated other contracts for administration, the board usually pays the supermajority, if not all, of the dues for those folks in the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association, which is the state union. Another big piece was that the insurance plan changed from the Direct 10 to the Direct 15. So there's a realization of savings to the Board of Education as far as the premiums that are being paid, and also as far as trying to get this contract settled as amicably and as professionally as possible. That was a concession by the BTASA as well in order to get that settlement. There's other things like direct deposit. Effective July 1/15, all employees are in direct deposit. It may seem unusual that you're negotiating that in 2015, but most of these contracts, they don't have that language in there. So that's another thing that we also addressed. Also cleaned up language on the evaluation. As you know, there's a whole new evaluation procedure statewide. So we just scrapped the language that was in there and said very simply, the parties will follow applicable state law instead of trying to lay out the 32 things that are in the statute in order to follow in a collective bargaining agreement. And it's much easier for the parties both to just agree that they follow the law. Seems simple, it is, but sometimes you'll see collective bargaining agreements which will have 10 pages dedicated to that and difficult to follow. I think those are the main highlights that I hit. If anybody has any questions, please feel free.
We need a motion and a second for number 38.
I need a motion and a second.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Dr. Gagliardi.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Conti.
Panucci.
Mr. Panucci.
That was Mr. Panucci.
I'm sorry. Maybe you guys should switch seats.
Fat and bald, he's tall and skinny with hair.
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Dr. Gagliardi.
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Panucci.
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo.
Yes.
All right, certainly that motion passes 6-0. It's unanimous. Thank you very much, folks, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam President, just through the chair, I would like to thank everybody who was involved in the process, because these things, not one of my favorite things personally, but everybody, we're all on the same team here for the school district, and it was a very amicable process, and thank you to Mr. Kalak for all of his invaluable help with this.
You're welcome, and thank you for saying that.
And Mr. Kalak, I feel exactly the same way. I'm not going to repeat it, but absolutely thank you. You made the arduous task of negotiations through everything a lot simpler and easier for us. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that, and you're very welcome.
Moving on, do I have any board members with any other questions on human resources? Okay. Do I have any questions from the public on human resources? Mr. Finelli. Oh, excuse me. Mr. Finelli, I have one other person. Can I let them go first?
Or you're done.
Excuse me? Well, no, I wanted to... Yeah, just for this area. That's part of human resources, yes.
The superintendent, the BTASA agreement.
Pat LaRusso, president of the BTASA. I just want to also thank Mr. Kalak for helping us move this along, and thank to the negotiation team for getting this done. This was certainly a long and arduous process. So on behalf of all the BTASA members, I want to thank you for your cooperation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. LaRusso. Mr. Finelli?
Madam President?
Yes.
I'm going to excuse myself. I have a long ride to a family reunion in New York, so...
Okay, enjoy.
Folks, thank you. Good night. Take care.
Thank you, Ms. Gale.
Good night, thanks.
Mr. Finelli?
You might have the answer to my question. Okay, am I safe in assuming that we can't ask questions about the contract yet?
No, you can, it's a public...
Yeah, now, it has been approved, so it will be, once it's signed, it'll be a public document available for inspection, but it has been approved.
Okay. I thought I had it down pat, but if I understand what happened tonight, because last meeting you approved the MOA, and now this meeting you're approving a different MOA, and what are the changes?
Now, Mr. Finelli, last time it was the agreement with the Teachers Association, the Brick Township Educational Association, which is the teachers. This was the approval of an MOA and a new contract with the Administrators Association. It's
okay.
a separate association, so it's not,
Good. Then I
what was done last time is done, and this was the next contract to be
Okay, I
set.
didn't hear that, I'm sorry, I apologize. Then I can ask my question, okay? I read the MOA for the teacher's contract, but it did not include the changes for insurance protection or the teacher's employment and salary, even though it says it's attached, it wasn't attached to the one that I got, okay? So without getting into a lot of detail, what changed in the insurance, whatever, that is going to save the district roughly $2 million?
Are you
through the chair.
talking about the MOA for the administrators?
No, I didn't get to see that.
Or are you talking about the teachers?
Teachers, yeah, last meeting. There was a big to-do that it's roughly going to cost $2 million a year increase, but the first year it's only going to cost $145,000 because of the saving in insurance. But everybody that mentioned that, nobody actually said what that savings was. Where did it come from? What is it? So my question is, what was the change in insurance that's going to save almost $2 million?
Okay, Mr. Finelli, right now, we're on number 38, and the questions are on number 38. If you want to ask something during public comment,
Sorry.
I'll be happy to entertain it. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none. We've already voted on it, so at this point, do I have any board comment? Anyone? Mr. Panucci?
Sure, just briefly, wish everybody good luck, faculty and students going back to school. And also, I know Mr. Philippone knows we're going to be having, well, we're not having it, but there is going to be a first ever Brick vs. Brick Memorial Alumni Football Game on October 10th. The catch is it's full pads. I was asked to play, but I had to decline because we all know if I put the pads back on, I'd be carted out in an ambulance almost immediately. But it's definitely going to be a good time. I'll be there probably coaching in some capacity, but for those alumni that haven't gotten wind of it yet, make sure you go online and check it out.
I just have a question, Mr. Philippone. Are you playing? And Dr. Caldez, what about you?
Listen, the only pads we will need are defibrillator pads. A little out of shape.
Do I have any,
His knees are a bit older than his actual age.
do I have any other board members? Mr. Conti?
I just wanted to, I noticed that we have some teaching staff out there, we have some bus attendants, we have some maintenance people, we have some administrators. Good luck with the first day of school. The in-service day is on the 1st and the 2nd, and then the real show starts on the 3rd. The lights go on, so good luck to another successful year for 15-16. You guys do a phenomenal job for this district, our kids, whether it be our maintenance staff, our transportation staff, our administrators, our teachers, everybody here does a great job, and it's I'm proud to be able to work with you, and especially over these past few years. So good luck. And just one other thing that I forgot to mention last month, a friend of mine from high school tragically passed away last year. Her husband wound up, along with her two children, her husband wound up setting up a scholarship that is actually going to be, I believe, put in place next year, and it's going to be for I believe, a Brick Memorial graduate. I'm going to get more of the information on it, but it's a lovely gesture by her husband, and it's great for our kids here in the district and to keep Marie's spirit alive. So it's something very nice.
Thank you, Mr. Conti. Mrs. Cusinelli?
Yes, I was remiss earlier. I wanted to thank Mr., I hope I pronounce it correctly, Zeidler and the Lake Riviera Middle School PTA. Mr. Zeidler donated an iPad, and the Lake Riviera Middle School PTA donated 2 inflatable movie screens, and I always like to acknowledge the people who are so generous in making those donations. It's very nice, and we all appreciate it. I also, under the circumstances this year, it was a particularly daunting task getting things ready for the opening of the school year, and I would like to thank our facilities, building buildings and grounds and custodians, because with all those renovations going on at Brick High School, everything really had a domino effect of people being moved around, and everybody really did an outstanding job in getting that ready, so thank you to them. And just wanted to wish everyone a great school year, but especially all of our new staff and new students. It's nice when you're in central administration to see some of the families there signing up the little ones and knowing that they're starting their journey here in Brick Schools. But thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cusinelli. Dr. Gagliardi.
Yes, I would be remiss if I didn't wish families, students, faculty, and staff a very successful year, and it's important for all of us to remind ourselves every once in a while that this business of ours is a business, and the children are more important than anything else that we do in our communities. So best wishes for a very successful, healthy, and happy school year to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gagliardi. Mr. Borton?
Yes, it's me. This month has been very busy. Being on the board, I was invited to a state candidate meet and greet, which I found quite interesting. Legislators, campaigning issues mostly, but it's quite an honor to be invited. The most fun I had, I believe, was with Base Camp. Base Camp was my first experience at work when I was a little kid, and I got a chance to speak with Knights of Columbus representatives. They run the Special Olympics in the summertime every year. They donate t-shirts, and they don't just drop it off at the door. They spend the day with the kids. They had a very successful day, and reminisced with me about some of the students that were in Base Camp a century ago. I also visited with the therapy dogs, and had a great time with that. Facilities, I guess it should have been said during the facility committee report, but they have been working very hard. It's awfully hot, and I think that the projects that started many years ago are coming to fruition, and it's going to be exciting for the students to start a new school year in what's going to be a completely different condition. Good luck for a smooth opening, and I learned a phrase, and I thought it was kind of neat. It says, encourage everyone to go where the students go to learn and find out what that's all about. So I hope that everyone working with the students and the families can remember it's only for the students. So go where they go to learn, be a part of it, and you'll really find out what being a part of this entire system means. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Borton. I'd like to also echo the sentiments of our board members to wish everyone a successful, happy opening of school, whether it's our students, our teachers, our administrators, our bus drivers, our aides, everyone. I know when I was a parent, I always had butterflies in my stomach for the first day of school, and I just want everyone to know that as a board member now, I feel very confident looking back on all of the teachers and everyone that were in the lives of my children, and every year was very exciting, and I wish the same for everyone involved. Thank you. I'll open it up to the public. If anyone has a question. Mr. Finelli?
No, how about Mr.
Oh, wait, okay, no, I already, Mr. Finelli, he can get up. I already made him sit down once. I don't want you to get offended with me, Mr. Finelli.
All right, before I get into the question I asked before, just so I know, did Mr. Edwards' contract get approved tonight?
I didn't hear what you said.
Did Mr. Edwards' contract get approved tonight?
Yes.
And did the 50% student tuition question get approved also?
I believe so, yes.
Even though nobody on the board knows why it's 50%?
It was a recommendation, Mr. Finelli, from previous administration, and it was an agreement worked out, and it was presented to the board at the time. It was something that was recommended by the superintendent, and everyone voted on it. So if you were right now to tell a child who has started school here well, I'm sorry, the person that approved your tuition a year or two ago is no longer here, so we're not going to honor your child's tuition. I think that's unfair to the child, and that's my personal opinion.
And I think paying full fare to go out, but only half fare to go in is unfair to the taxpayers. Okay. My question...
Mr. Finelli, I just want to comment what you said, the extra taxpayer burden. We're not adding an extra teacher for the student. We're not providing transportation for the student. I don't see where the additional, it's an empty seat in the classroom, so we are producing revenue from it. Unlike other districts that surround us, they take in tuition students to fill seats that are empty in our classroom. And then, as you know, our enrollment is down slightly from the past, so we do have room, and our class averages are down. So it didn't impact the class size in any negative manner. And like I said, we didn't have to hire an extra teacher or anything for it. And I just want to echo what Ms. Cantillo said. I think it was the same thing. You want to go on the lines. You said, well, you made a comment about with the busing with me. I thought it was unfair for the RBC parents and CBA at the last minute to have that yanked out. I thought it would be unfair for this parent at the last minute to change the rules, and now all of a sudden, days before school opens, that's my rationale for it.
I understand that.
But going forward, and I said before, this needs to be addressed early on so that this parent will know going forward this will be the tuition rate down the road early enough that she can make other arrangements, plans, savings to pay the whatever, okay?
Well, I guess if somebody else wants to come into the district at the last minute, you're going to have to charge them half fare too instead of full fare.
This is an existing student that was here. As you can see, this is the only one.
My question that I asked before was in the wrong place. What changed in the teacher's contract that is going to save the district $2 million? And it said medical benefits or inferred to that, and it was brought up several times, but nobody actually said what the change was. So that's what I'm asking. What's saving us $2 million?
Mr. Edwards or Ms. Kuzna is the chair of it. I mean, whoever.
Whatever you prefer. I mean,
if you feel comfortable, go ahead.
Mr. Finelli, with the teacher's contract we're talking about,
Yes.
correct? There was a change in the insurance, basically from Direct 10 to Direct 15. There was some utilization management protocols put in place with regards to the prescription plan, and with the calculations, you have to realize when you're dealing with the teachers, it's a very large number of employees, so that's how that number was realized. Basically, by making those changes, that's was how we got to those numbers.
So I understood the part about the prescription, but what was the other one you said before that?
Direct 10 to Direct 15?
Yeah, what is that?
It's the copay structure.
Okay.
It's still Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, but it's just slightly higher copay, and that affected the premium.
So they're changing, they're paying more on their copay and they're
Correct.
paying more on their prescription plan.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Paying more for their prescriptions.
There's different protocols that create health savings, because you're having more managed health care and preventing people from maybe falling through the cracks with their own health. It's kind of putting these management protocols in place so that they become healthier, and ultimately that's how it calculates to a savings.
Safe to assume that savings would be about the same next year as it is this year?
I mean, I'll defer to Mr. Edwards, but I would think it would be higher as the premiums increase, correct, Mr. Edwards?
That would be a safe assumption, yes.
Okay.
Because what neglected to come out in the conversations is that these teacher raise is 3% a year. Oh, by the way, I didn't hear any percentages for the next contract for the administrators, but that's all right. It's over 3% a year, so that's coming to $2 million. So the first year you have, it's only going to cost you $145 million because you have a $2 million savings. But the second year, if you have roughly a $2 million savings, the contract has now cost you $4 million because it's cumulative. And the next year, which is the third year of the contract, it's now going to be up $6 million because it goes up $2 million a year.
Well, depending on, and you have, retirements and things like that that affect that total number, but so it does change, but
So basically...
It will, according to Mr. Edwards, when we reviewed it, it will, fluctuate a little bit, but not, you said historically, it's pretty consistent because of the attrition and the increases in the premiums and things like that.
It's not going to fluctuate much. That's what you're saying. So what I'm saying is...
I'm sorry, Mr. Fennell, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I apologize. Could you repeat that?
You said it's not going to fluctuate much, the savings, but you're going to go up $2 million a year on the salary alone, so...
No, I meant the net. I meant the net stays pretty consistent between people retiring at higher salaries, the insurance premiums increasing, that affects that savings. Mr. Edwards, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you did kind of extend it out, and we found that it was relatively the same savings.
Correct. Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That the salary raises are cumulative?
Yes.
So the first year, the salary base goes up $2 million, the second year it goes up $4 million, the third year it goes up $6 million. So if everything stays relatively the same, next year you're going to have to come up with $2 million to cover the difference, and the year after that you're going to have to come up with $4 million to cover
Unless people retire or the health care premiums increase, that, translate into the savings. But I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't necessarily, logically you would think that, but the way it all comes out, it doesn't always work that way.
I'm a logical person. You're going to have to come up with the money.
Mr. Finelli, if I can, because I think there's a piece that you're missing. So if they did not agree to change from the Direct 10 to the Direct 15 plan, the board would have been spending $2 million more on medical insurance for each year of the contract. So even though you're saying it's a one-time saving, it's really not a one-time saving. It's a cumulative savings. We're saving $2 million a year by that change, which then becomes $4 million, which then becomes $6 million. Because the savings will be there every year.
No, don't play the numbers.
You're talking about a one-time savings. It's not a one-time saving, it's an annual savings.
Mr. Edwards,
It's an annual savings.
I didn't fall off the back of a turnip truck.
I'm telling you that that's the truth, that you're saving $2 million a year.
Right.
If we did not go into that plan, and they did not agree to go into that plan, then we would have to pay an additional $2 million a year for medical insurance.
And you're paying out $2 million the first year, and $4 million the second, and $6 million the third.
Right, so we're saving
That adds up to...
Excuse me,
So does the
Mr. Finelli,
savings.
and Mr. Edwards, we're getting to the 5-minute.
Okay. Couple of quick ones, and I'll sit down.
Does that make sense?
Dr. Caldez, you said that you're hiring kindergarten teachers so you can reduce the size of the classes.
Correct. We had a late burst of enrollment, people coming in the last 2 weeks that increased our class size up to, at Osborneville, we were at 27 students last week, and I went to the HR, Ms. Cantillo and Ms. Cusinelli, and told them that we will be adding teachers based on how the enrollment fluctuates. First of all, I was waiting to the last minute because at one particular building, the enrollment actually was lower than last year, and it appeared that we may have an extra teacher. But in those 2 weeks, that 2-week span, the registration kind of boomed where it was well over 20 that registered just for that single building. I'm not cutting you off, but we still, unfortunately, it's been a pattern of recent, this week and the first week of school, we're still going to have people coming to register their kids, so, and students. One of the things that I want to avoid doing, in the past, when we ran into this situation, we started switching kids because, say, a school was filled, we'd send them to another school that had an opening, and what would happen is now we're busing one student from one part of the town to another town because there was no room for them, and that was part of the kind of the busing mess that we had last year where it wasn't very efficient.
All right. What is the number you're looking for?
Kindergarten class, I personally, and Ms. McNamara will argue with me, but no more than 22.
22? Okay. Back to my teacher contract. Is that contract now available? The last time I put an open request in, it wasn't available.
No, it's still being proofed right now. We actually finished it today, the final edits, and now the BTEA has it for proofing.
So the answer is no, not yet.
The answer is no, not yet, but I just wanted to give you an explanation.
Okay, at the last meeting, I asked a question about how many displaced students we had in the district, and somebody, I forget who, was going to send me that information, and I never got it.
Displaced students. I don't, I'll be honest, Mr. Fennelly, I don't recall you personally asking that at the
okay,
meeting,
let me-
but if you would like, we can find that out for you.
Let me refresh your memory, because I watched the video again today.
Okay.
All right? I asked the question of, what does homeless mean? And you said, well, it really wasn't homeless, it was displaced. And we had a whole discussion about
Got better
two
memory.
people and the salaries and everything, and I ended up by saying, how many displaced students do we have in the district? And the answer was, we don't know, but somebody, I don't remember who it was, said, I will email it to you, can I have your email address? And I said, Mr. Edwards has my email address.
Okay.
Remember it now?
Now I remember, Mr.
Okay.
Fennelly.
Well, I never got it.
Okay.
So who was going?
I will get it for you next week.
You'll get it from me?
I will get it for you. Here, put it in writing. I will get it for you. I'll take responsibility for that number.
Are my 5 minutes up?
Yes, they are.
Sorry about that, because I had another.
Mr. Campbell?
Well, Campbell 655 Mark Manor. I have some old business I'd like to clean up concerning facilities. And we got a very serious situation right now that we got the electricity back on in Brick Township High School. We have a transformer and a switch relay in back of the school. We put a fence around the transformers. This is important. It has to be taken care of like yesterday. We didn't put the stationary pipes around it yet, but next to it are two boxes, they're switch relays. There's 12,000 volts in there. There's nothing around it, nothing. A kid can die instantly, anybody can. And when school comes back in, and we have these night football games, somebody hits that, somebody's going to be liable. I'm sorry, but it's critical. And I brought this up back in the beginning of the summer before I was let go. You can't mess with it. 12,000 volts unprotected. Secondly, another liability, maybe you guys are working on it now, is the resurfacing of that Brick Township track. Big liability, and if you don't take care of it this year, instead of just resurfacing it, you'll be spending close to $1 million to do the whole track over.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes, sir.
I know we spoke back a while ago about
Yes.
the track, and I'm in agreement with you because I was at Memorial and saw that one go bye-bye, and we had to put all that money into it. I think at the end, when we're done with all the projects, see what we have left in money and if it can be applied to that.
Right.
If not, if I have a say in it, that is a budget item that needs to be addressed along with Brick Township High School's East Gym. That is another issue that's,
Yes,
to me, on the
there's a lot of issues.
and along with the parking lots and the curbing that are, you know, there's
But let's take care of the ones that are immediate problems, okay? Now, I think, Mr. Filippone is still here? This is concerning the heating, and, well, we're not done with the heating yet, but the AC project. When we came in today, Mr. Filippone said that it's completely done, the 80 units are in, they're charging, they're ready for September 3, and they got to do some fine-tuning with the various lines and whatnot over the weekend. That was a major accomplishment. Kids will love it. I don't think Dennis got a split system for his office. He tried, but...
window
Window, that's it?
used.
Maybe next year. All right. Next, another item that might be of interest to Mr. Panucci or Mr. Edwards or Dr. Caldes is on the window project we're doing. That's been moved up. They're going to start with Brick Memorial High School, because the factory is bringing this stuff in on September 20th. Then we'll go to Vets Middle and Vets Elementary. Then we'll do the Osborne, and then the twin schools, Lanes Mill and Drum Point. Lake Riv's the last one, but this is important. You got to make a note here. There are balances in the windows that they're going to take out of Lake Riv. They've only been in there 2-3 years. Save them and put them in the windows that are not going to be replaced, especially those that are kind of the guillotine nature. And it'll be done by late spring instead of next summer. They're ahead of schedule with production and whatnot. That's a good thing. The thing I want to ask Mr. Panucci, since we have no money, what is the situation with the ESCO proposal? Was that ever shared with the board members?
Mr. Edwards, correct me if I'm wrong. Where did we leave off on this?
ESCO proposal was shared with the board members. They were to provide you with comments.
And then I believe we were going to originally nix it because of budgetary constraints, and then I said that there were other districts that are previously going through this right now, so instead of voting no on it, we would see what happens.
Right, we wanted to get through the summer construction schedule that we're under right now.
Right, and instead of nixing it all together, there may be value for it, so bringing up after the summer construction if we have leftover money.
Something to be visited in the future.
Okay.
Gentlemen.
So it wasn't taken off the table completely?
Okay,
the original
because this takes 1.5 years to even materialize. We know that. So you should be working on it now. And by that time, maybe a lot of our lease purchase for the stuff we have now will be pretty much underway. And the beauty of that thing with the ESCO, we got 5 different heating system problems we had this past year in different schools. We got to get it done. You got 40, 50 years worth of electrical stuff. Bathrooms, the accessibility doesn't exist. And we have no money. So the only way we can go is with an ESCO. Seriously. And the beauty of it is if we can get a long-term ESCO, we're presently using $2.5 million for facilities. We can cut it down to $1.5 million over 15 years and take care of all the other schools and be done. And I'll be out of your hair. But until that's done, I'll haunt you one way or another. But seriously, progress was made there, and then we had the thing with the brick chiller. Mr. Hyphantis and Dr. Caldez are taking care of that. I don't want to get into that. That was at your request. And I have one other thing I'd like to direct towards Ms. McNamara, curriculum. Just to put a little bee in the bonnet, so to speak. Right now we have, 15 to 20% kids taking AP courses? Is any...
A little bit higher.
Am I a little high?
You're a little bit.
Lower?
Yeah, it's about 18 to 22.
18, 22?
Maybe a little bit better.
Okay. Now, our problem lies in skill courses, service courses. We don't do anything for those kids. I can remember when I went over to, I'm going past my time, but I remember Dr. Caldez when I went over to look at that beautiful lab they had at Brick Memorial. That central lab, it was about a $250,000 replacement would be on that. And they were using it for storage. It's a little better now, but there's a situation where you could put a lab technician course in there. I gave you and Mr. Philippone a CRS course, landscape maintenance time. We got to get things where kids can and other people can get jobs. It's skills and service. You can take all the AP courses in the world and go to college. There's no guarantees when you get out. But with the skill there is. And that's where we got to head. Because we're basically, middle class. We have a lot of influx coming, upper middle class. That's it. These kids need something. And I'd like to sit down with you and go over that, if it's okay with you sometime. I'd like to see a biotech course in there. That consists of aquaculture, hydroponics, horticulture. These are ongoing things that kids can get jobs in now. Because we're in the seashore. We have nothing on aquaculture. You got to start thinking in a different light. It's wonderful to have a lot of AP courses, but it doesn't take care of most of the kids. I got other things, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, and I'd just like to say thank you to you and to Mr. Hyphantis for all of the work and dedication and time that you've put into our facility projects, the hours and hours that you have looked at them and planned them and collaborated.
It was a lot of
with everyone.
hours, a lot of
Yes, it was,
hours.
and I'd just like to tell you,
Unfortunately,
thank you.
it didn't wind up in a proper fashion. But he and I will be back.
Is there anyone else with a comment from the public? Seeing none, I have a calendar of September 1st and 2nd is a professional day. September 3rd is first day of school for our students. September 7th is Labor Day. September 14th is Rosh Hashanah. Schools are closed. September 23rd is Yom Kippur. Schools are closed. And September 24th is our next regular board meeting at 7 o'clock at Brick Township High School. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Mr. Panucci? Thank you.
Second.
And thank you, Mr. Condi.
Mr. Barton?
Yeah, seems right.
Yeah,
Mr. Conti?
finally.
Yes.
Dr. Gagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Panucci?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes. Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming to our meeting.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah. No, I'm not. I have to get back to my house. Thank you.
Zero for the first 2 years. And then 3 for the third, and 3 for the fourth.